All right, 2021 Ducati Diavel 1260S. What are some of the best upgrades for this bike? Number one, the Termignoni racing exhaust. Okay? You might listen to some videos on YouTube to try to understand what this exhaust sounds like, but those videos aren't going to do any justice in terms of the sound. This exhaust, yes, it's expensive. I think it's about $3,000, but the sound and the power is insane. Not to mention the fact that it drops about 15 pounds of weight on the bike, okay? So when you put this exhaust on, obviously you want to roll with like a Sprint air filter, and then the exhaust comes with a code that the dealership will put in using their software to adjust the fuel to air ratio on the bike, and provide you with probably 10 to 15 additional horsepower and some additional amount of torque that goes along with that. Next thing, the Ducabike clear clutch cover, a staple accessory for any Ducati. Obviously, I had the V4S before I bought this bike, and I had the clear clutch cover on that as well. But it's just phenomenal, and it's a talking piece. It's a talking point. Everyone comes up to look at the bike. They're like, "Oh my God, this is the most badass bike I've ever seen. This is insane." And this is really a centerpiece, right? People focus on this and they're just like, "Wow, that's just nuts," right? So that's just fantastic. It's honestly not that difficult to put it on if you want to do it yourself. When I bought this bike, I was like, "Hey, I got some extra parts," and the dealership was like, "Yeah, we'll throw them on there for you, no problem," right? So they actually put it all on there for free. So I was like, that was cool. And then I have a zero gravity lithium ion battery, which sits right behind this panel here. That battery weighs like less than a pound, or about a pound. 750 cranking amps, I think. It's a ridiculous amount of cranking amps. But the zero gravity battery is really the best, lithium ion or lithium iron phosphate battery that you can get for a motorcycle. It has protection on it. So if there's a parasitic drain, or you leave your headlights on or something, right? The battery will actually terminate connection to the bike when it hits about 15%. And then there's a button that you can push on the battery that will turn the battery back on and allow you to start your bike. So that's a really fantastic feature to make sure that, the battery really never falls below 15% and leaves you stranded or screwed. It does come with a plug that you can use, right, with the battery tender lithium iron phosphate charger. That's about $60 for that charger. You don't really need it though. I mean, you don't have to trickle charge the lithium ion battery. It'll go 2 to 3 years before it goes to zero, right? So you can just leave this thing sitting in your garage and not have to worry about it at all. I've got the Ducabike cover here for the rear brake fluid. I got black just because it blends in a little bit better with the bike. You don't want to have too much red on it, right? What's next? So Ducabike covers up here for the fluid reservoirs, the front brake and the clutch reservoirs. The Ducabike cover, they have two different versions of this, one that has carbon fiber and then one that has some brushed aluminum right on the top there. Those are really fantastic, exceptionally well made. They just really help to accent the bike on the top side. The smoked windscreen, by Ducati, I highly recommend it. Some people might not like the way that it looks, but if you go on the freeway with any degree of frequency, man, you got to have that windscreen. Otherwise, you're just going to get pummeled and beaten by the wind. It doesn't cut out 100% of the wind. Your helmet, you still feel a little bit of wind on your helmet. But it's a huge difference between having it and not having it. So I highly recommend the smoked windscreen. Got some Ducabike rear nut here on both sides, really, actually. Got that because it just looks cool, right? The red just looks awesome. And then the Ducabike Sprocket Carrier with Ducabike nuts. So I got the red and black Sprocket Carrier, and then another axle nut right here. Really looks awesome, And then this is a SuperSprox black stealth sprocket. It's an aluminum inner, and you can see there's rivets here with high-grade steel teeth that are kind of riveted onto the aluminum, and they drill that aluminum out just to cut weight, right? So there's holes kind of drilled all through it there. Really fantastic sprocket. It's not too expensive either. And then I've got the, this is a 3D X-ring chain out of Japan. It's anodized black and gold. It's really probably the best chain that you can buy for any motorcycle. Okay, that 3D X-ring chain out of Japan is really the best chain that you can possibly buy. And all of this is really easy to install yourself. If you get a chain breaker kit, it's just a piece of cake to install it. I actually had this exact same setup on my Ducati V4S, and I installed it all myself, including the exhaust. Next item here, this is a must-have. Again, it's not really, so much for looks. A lot of this is for looks. The chain is functional, but the sprocket and the sprocket carrier, let's be real, that's all for looks, right? I mean, it does shave some weight off, but it's nominal. This is the Ducabike 3D slave clutch piston, okay? for the hydraulic clutch. This gives you the size of the chamber and the piston that's in here is 2 times the size of the Brembo. And the design and the quality is significantly better than Brembo. But essentially what this does is it gives you anywhere from a 30 to 50% lighter pull on your clutch. So actuating the clutch is like butter. I mean, it's just so easy. You could like one finger this clutch all day. It's really fantastic. So I put that on there, that myself, that was pretty easy to do. And let me show you real quick the brake fluid. So I recommend Motools RBF 660 racing brake fluid. This is between, I think, $40 and $60 a quart. Actually, it's not even really a quart. It's 500 milliliters. It is expensive. It's really high end. It's .4. I don't really recommend .5, but I mean, you can read online what are the differences between .4 and .5, but obviously, that brake fluid is hygroscopic, which means it absorbs water from the atmosphere. And .5 brake fluid, it absorbs significantly more water than .4. And so if you're running with .5, you're probably going to have to change your brake fluid 2 or 3 times a year. Like, no, without question. Like, you're probably going to have to, just because it's going to absorb a lot of water, especially if you live in an environment with high humidity. But I use a pneumatic bleeder, and I bleed this stuff through. I used this on my V4S, and it was fantastic. And I did have to change the brake fluid on the V4S probably, 2 or 3 times a year, just because it would get black so quickly. It would just really turn black very quickly. Especially the brake fluid in the rear reservoir, right? It would go to hell within a couple of months. And I think, I don't know if that's because the seal wasn't so good on the rear reservoir, or if it was just because it was situated too close to the exhaust and there was just too much damn heat hitting it all the time. But it's good stuff. It's really good stuff. All right. So, I would turn it on and let you hear what the exhaust sounds like. But honestly, the video, with this, I need pro audio equipment to get you some good sound on that, because the Samsung, S21 Ultraphone is not going to do any justice for the way that this exhaust sounds. I mean, it turns heads. It's loud. It's beefy. You just want to gun it all the time. It's awesome.